little bit of a pullback after.
Please, this is not a pullback.
Quite the rally. Well, breather. I don't know. What would you call this?
Breather. It's just a catching a breath.
Well, some people think this should just go up every day forever.
True.
True. It does trade lower once in a while. I sold a little bit at 42, hoping to buy back under 40 if we get there.
Mm-hmm.
But let's jump into it. Got a little bit of kind of a look at what's going on in the market for anybody that hasn't been following as closely as I do. And then I want to talk about what's happening on Bitcoin. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of kind of how the network's evolving or what's being built on top of it. Very early, some experimental stuff that's happening, but everyone should be aware of this because we'll see what this leads to in maybe another year or so. But just taking a look at this continuation of the rally that we've seen throughout the month of November, it was a good month. You've got Bitcoin continuing to trade higher. It hasn't been the best performer. Avalanche and some of these alts, Cardano has done well. You can see over the last month, Avalanche is up 109%. Solana, as we've talked about, has done well. But that rally really continues here. That said, Bitcoin is still dominating in terms of the total crypto market cap.
Why would you think it would be anything else?
At this stage?
Yeah,
not surprised.
Yeah.
I think that it leads to opportunities in some other things. Those might be short-lived, as we've seen, some rallies in alts have been met with selling pressure. But yeah, at this stage in the market, or let's say if this is a bull market at the beginnings of it, I think you still look for Bitcoin to dominate. What I'm kind of sick of, though, is that every single 5% gain in here is explained by ETFs are coming soon. We have to move past that. I don't know if that matters as much
ETF
as...
has been so overhyped and overpriced. Has nothing to do... This move has nothing to do with any ETF market.
Completely agree.
But everything has to have a narrative, right? In the market,
everything has to have a narrative because that's the way that we've set. That's the way that
it's always been. That's not the way it was always meant to be, but that's the way it's always been. Sure.
That's the way finance has explained themselves forever. So, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Yeah. On the ETF front, it does seem, based on, I guess, anecdotal evidence and what is reported around some of the conversations that these institutions are having with the SEC, at least what's come out, is that it's a lot more positive than it has been. There is a path forward. This does seem like it's inevitable at some point. We don't have it yet. I wouldn't be surprised, as I'm sure maybe you guys wouldn't be either, to see some selling into that announcement. But we've had quite the run up here. So I want to just really quickly look at a couple more things around the market, and then we'll jump into what is happening on Bitcoin. But if it's not the ETFs, what do you think is really behind the rally?
First of all, Bitcoin cryptocurrencies are built to rally. Their whole reason for their existence.
They were born to rally.
They were born to rally. They're a runner, and they are a speculative instrument with upside. Essentially, there are no retail shorts. They're a pure upside play, and like any other kind of commodity, and everybody, and we've seen this here at Tasty. Everybody just sits on longs. Yeah. And I think people thought that, and I was one of them, thought people would trade cryptocurrencies. I thought people would be, there'd be a much bigger, at this point, derivatives marketplace. I thought there'd be all this stuff going on. It's none of the above. They are just a long-only asset. And when they go up, some people buy more, a few people, take some profits. But it's not a two-sided trade. It's a one-dimensional animal. It's a one-trick pony, and I think that in that sense, there is a lot. Nobody sold on the way down, and I think that on the way up, like I said, we've experienced a lot of trading activity in the last couple of weeks in Bitcoin, and most of it has been longs just lightening up, or some people, a few people adding to their longs, but mostly been longs lightening up. But everybody was sitting on longs.
Yeah. Yeah, to that point.
Myself included, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm in the same animal.
Well, have you been lightening up?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a point at which you'd add back, or is this it in your mind where we got this monster rally, you're up 170% year to date, and now you take it off the table? Is there a point where...
Well, I'm not up 170.
Well, I'm just saying in terms of the assets performance this year.
I would say that I'd say we're pretty close to a double. So 100%. And I think most of our purchases are in the low 20s, and maybe some below that, but maybe some mid, whatever. I'm a buyer on any pullback.
Yeah.
I mean, any kind of pullback at all, I'm a buyer, and any kind of a rally, I'm a seller. But I'm always going to maintain a long position.
Yeah, I think you have to, just given, I mean, sure, Bitcoin's been around for a while, but still how early it is in maybe this overall paradigm shift or just the evolution of this as an asset class. I mean, it's still really, really small, as we've talked about. I think this does have to do with what we've seen in rates recently, or what we've seen with inflation and some of the kind of more macro drivers. I know you don't maybe agree with me at times around that, but I don't think it's a coincidence that, I mean, yields peaked, 10-year yield peaked on the 23rd at about 5% and has fallen almost 90 basis points since. And you've seen a ton of things just have a huge month in November as a result. And so if you continue to see yields fall over time, and I don't think, it's going to be for the right reasons, but I think it does support Bitcoin. This is ultimately
I don't think it's yield based.
You don't think so?
No.
I mean, it went sideways for a year.
I know. I'd be surprised if it's what the correlation is to yields.
Yeah. Well, I think generally speaking, if you look out at the last 10 years or so, as we've had this, up until just recently, emergency monetary policy in place since the great financial crisis, this is not, people say this isn't an inflation hedge. It's definitely not a CPI month-to-month hedge. It doesn't trade off of that. But this is a fiat currency debasement hedge. And so if you think that quantitative easing or zero interest rate policy or any of those things ever come back into the picture, even if it's on a cyclical basis, I do think that this supports Bitcoin prices. But we'll see. Regardless, there's just not a lot of capital in it, relatively speaking.
Bitcoin, to me, is an FU asset. It is a asset where, and all digital currencies are, where people like to own it because
the anti-establishment.
They like to say "F you"
it's the
to
establishment's
Jamie Dimon.
anti-establishment.
That's right. They want to say.
Because I mean, it is here.
They want to say "F you" to Jamie Dimon. They want to say "F you" to the SEC, to Gary Gensler, to all the naysayers, to all the old school thinkers, whoever it might be, whether it was the Charlie Mungers of the world or again the Jamie Dimons or anybody that wants to go out there and blast the technology. It is a pure FU play.
Yeah.
It's better than GameStop.
It's 100 times better.
Right.
It's real technology.
Right.
GameStop is not.
That's my opinion.
Of course, it is. It's real technology.
I'd rather put X amount of dollars in Bitcoin,
of course,
or any other currency.
Of course,
the upside has to be a multiple of what
it is. It is a real FU play, and we have to stop trying to bucket it as like is it's tied to interest rates or it's a currency play. I mean, it's a tech play. Well, a lot of technology are much of the technology today is an FU play to a certain extent, like AI is.
Yeah.
But to me AI is not as interesting.
Yeah.
I know it sounds crazy because a lot of people think, well, how could you even compare the two? The AI is 100 times more interesting. I actually think it's the other way around.
Does it even matter anymore because it's all the same?
Matter.
With Jamie Dimon, for example.
No, it doesn't matter. Of course,
it's all the same people saying the same thing that they've been saying. It doesn't matter.
Nobody
he's
cares.
Extremely successful. They're going to continue to do their thing.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Cares. But the point is that exactly. Nobody cares. The more he talks about it negatively, the better it is for Bitcoin.
Well, real quick, it might be time to get back into that ETH BTC spread. We've had mixed results, I think, but
it's really hard to trade.
Yeah,
it's really hard to trade. If you can find a way to do it where it's where somebody doesn't have to risk. I just don't think people are willing to do $200,000 notional trades with 60% implied volatility. It's just not a normal trade for most, retail investors.
Yeah.
That's the problem. If you're going to mess around with that kind of trade, you need it on a more of a micro level. So I think people will do it, 5, 10, 20, 25,000, maybe even up to 50,000. But a $200,000 notional trade with a 60% implied volatility, you're looking at some pretty big intraday swings, I think it's tough.
Yeah,
Tough
they're
hold
really.
to do. There's no choices. There's no micro product. There's nothing. There's nothing out there.
Yeah, if anybody wants to do it, we can throw up the next couple of slides here. I mean, I'm just calling this out because we're back at levels that we were the last time that we bounced off of here. Obviously, doesn't mean that the trend lower doesn't continue, but there was a trade here last time. It happened very quickly, and then you can see that it was faded. But on a one-year basis, ETH has underperformed about 30% against Bitcoin. So maybe you have a shot you can take. That said, if you just jump to the next slide, how do you do it? They both have the same vol, about 60%. Correlation has come down quite a bit. We've got the correlation there at the bottom, so you can see it's usually closer to 0.9. It's 0.74 right now. Again, and that's for whatever reason, Bitcoin has just been on a tear. But if you were to set this up, and we're using the CME futures here, the Bitcoin future, the big guy represents 5 Bitcoin, as Tom just mentioned with the notional, and ETH is 50 ETH. So just divide 220,000 in notional by 113,000. So you're going to do this 2 to 1. What that would mean is you would sell or go short 1 Bitcoin future for every 2 Ethereum futures that you're long. You want to do it with the micros, you do
It's like
20 to 1.
It's more than that, and now it's even.
Given how they're
Bitcoin
priced.
was 44,000 times 5. It's 220,000. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's some other exchanges, crypto specific, that now have derivatives that let you do this. That's a lot easier because the products are sized accordingly. But I would imagine the rest of the industry catches up at some point.
Yeah, but we can't write to them.
Yeah.
I mean, the SIBO's going to come out with new products. There'll be plenty of new products.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun trade. I mean, the thing you have to realize, people have to realize about this is these are a fraction of the size of Apple.
Yeah.
It's like one stock. Like, who cares? It's just a trade. Stop making a big deal about it. Let's just let's look at all the technology and what it's going to mean, down the road. But it's just another play.
Well, that trade might be there. Just moving on quickly before we jump into a couple things, as I'm kind of running out of time. But just looking at vol, I think sometimes it's important to set expectations here. So you've got Bitcoin trading up to 44,000. Implied volatility hasn't moved as much. Just given the magnitude of the rally, I'm surprised that you aren't seeing higher IV in there. We're still trading where we were, about a month ago. So not a ton of upside speculation necessarily in some of the options markets that do exist. But you've got a 60% IV, gives you an IV rank of 58 on Bitcoin and 51 on Ethereum on a one-year basis. And so when you look at expectations for moves, it would not be out of the question to get a $4,000 move or a 10% move here on a 1 week basis if you look at Bitcoin. So it doesn't
I like that you put the IVR up there.
Yeah. I did that for you, Tom.
I like it.
Yeah.
God, you're such a sucker.
No, I do like it.
I'm the one who called you masculine, all right?
So
Well, I mean, it gives it some context. It's rich right now.
Well, and so let's just look at what would an IVR of closer to 100 on Bitcoin be. It'd be closer to 80%. It'd actually be over 100 if you were to look at the IVR at 80%. And I get that for us to get an IV of 80, we're not going to be just stuck at 44,000 on the spot price. But just to kind of put some context around that, and what do you expect if you see a 20-point move in vol there? Now we're looking at another 1,000 points or so in terms of what that weekly range or the volatility in there is expected. So those are the ranges that we're kind of looking at. Maybe this trades up into 50. Who knows? Personally, if anybody cares, they don't. But I would be buying dips in this under 40. The trend is your friend. I know you hate that term, but this is bullish. There's nothing comes out all of a sudden and everything just reverses here.
You mean you say you'd be buying Bitcoin under 40,000?
Yeah, I would. Which is like you said earlier, I would be buying dips in here. Continuing to
I'm a
trade
buyer
it that
a
way.
lot lower than that. I mean, not for any reason. I just don't.
If it gets there.
Like if you said to me, you like Apple and it's trading at 194 right now, I'd be like, okay, I like Apple too, but I'm not a buyer at 188.
Yeah.
I'd be a buyer at 168, 170, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is I wouldn't start to think that because, the number's big, it's gone up a lot, it went down a lot. I wouldn't start to try to sit in front of this and short it. I think there's risk there. You might make some money, but I think the easier trade is to probably buy dips, just given why this is going up.
We can't short it.
Yeah, that's true.
Nobody's, you can short the futures, I guess, the micro futures in Bitcoin, which is a $3,000 short. But,
Well, maybe you could sell some premium upside calls on Coinbase and MicroStrategy, and you kind of lay off a little bit of risk there.
MicroStrategy, no. Coinbase, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
Coinbase.
Why not MicroStrategy? Just curious.
Have you looked at the markets in there?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I thought you were saying the product itself.
No.
I'm sorry.
It's the markets.
Yep.
I mean, the markets in MicroStrategy are as bad as they are in the options on the CME products. But if you look at Coinbase, everything's trading about a penny around mid price. So Coinbase is the best trading vehicle, one of the best trading vehicles out there, and it never was before.
Yeah, and pretty strong positive correlation to Bitcoin prices, as we would expect too.
Yeah, except for today. Well, actually, Bitcoin just rallied back.
Bitcoin
Coinbase
down and Coin's down.
Yeah,
right?
yesterday was a weird move because Bitcoin was up and Coinbase was down 5, but it got ahead of itself. Today, it's the other way around. Bitcoin's down a little bit and Coinbase is up. So it's not perfect, but you're right. Yeah.
But one more slide. Couple data points here. What's really behind the rally? For whatever reason, you're starting to see large amounts of capital from institutions come into this space. So if we just look at the CME, those are the big contracts. The volume and open interest here, has jumped significantly. But then you really look at that position from those asset managers in the Commitment of Traders report. And asset managers are loading the boat here. Maybe it's front running the ETF approvals, or it's just this is the easy way to get that exposure right now.
Well, I think somebody should show this graph to Jamie Dimon and just explain to him that these aren't exactly drug dealers that are buying the futures contracts, because everything does have a paper trail. So, just because I love how it's drug dealers, it's fraudsters. Well, these are centrally cleared with a paper trail. So I don't really think these are drug dealers or money launderers. So
I just don't know where that comes from. Like, what data are they going off of? Because you can refute that objectively.
I think they're going off just the stories about Binance.
Yeah.
Like all the old stories about Binance and FTX. But when you look at when you look at this stuff and you see the growth in the actual futures products, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
If you were arguing that these markets are unfair, then you have to argue that your own markets are real or bullshit.
Right.
Well, that's a good chunk of this. I've got others to go off of. I know we're running out of time. We can wrap it up here and save the building on Bitcoin.
We always have time for you.
Okay, fine. Let's do it. All right. Yeah. So a couple things I wanted to just point out here, because this has really happened very quickly and recently, is you are seeing an explosion of activity on the Bitcoin blockchain as it pertains to what's being built on top of it, I suppose. And so there's a couple things that people should be aware of. Bitcoin is evolving in a sense. There's a couple camps too. Some people are really in favor of this. Others hate this idea. But there is something called Bitcoin ordinals. This is a protocol that came into existence right at the beginning of the year. And for a little bit of context, if you're not familiar, the smallest unit of a Bitcoin is called a Satoshi. And that represents...
That's what we call Tony's smallest unit.
She told you?
Satoshi.
That was our secret.
I'm sorry, it's out now.
Did I say something I wasn't supposed to say about...
Oh, Satoshi.
I told your wife I wouldn't say it on the show.
Oh, man.
Sorry.
That's funny.
Oh, little Satoshi.
So this Satoshi...
Used to be Hermie.
This represents 100 millionth of a Bitcoin, so very small. And what the Ordinals protocol does is it enables for the transcription of these Satoshis with a unique serial number, and that then allows you to embed data within these individual units via this protocol. And so what that ultimately leads to is NFTs on the Bitcoin network. And I know that whenever I say NFTs, people just think about pictures. they're pictures, but they're represented by a non-fungible token, which is a unique identifier on the blockchain. So this is just bringing the ability to have unique identifiers attached to whatever on the Bitcoin blockchain. So it starts to resemble, some of what's happening on Ethereum. Still very, very early, but an explosion in activity as a result. So this happened in January. And then in March, we got the BRC20 token standard. So on Ethereum, when we talk about the different tokens that trade on top of it, ERC20 tokens. Bitcoin has a similar version. Doesn't work exactly the same way because on Ethereum it uses smart contracts. This uses the ordinals protocol, and it allows for the creation, minting, and the transfer of these tokens in a way on top of Bitcoin. Is kind of how you can think of it, but on the Bitcoin network. And again, it uses this new technology that's been developed, that's come to light. And why I'm talking about this is because the first, or one of the first, BRC20 tokens is ORDI, ORDI. And this thing in the last month is up 434%. It's up a couple 1,000% from where it was. It's an experimental BRC20 token. You access it using an ordinal supported wallet. So eventually we can bring this to the wallet that we're working on. But it's 1.1 billion in market cap. It's got a price of $55. So it's not that it's just some fraction of a penny sort of token. No. And so I'm just calling this out. I don't think go and buy this and chase 400% up, but this stuff is happening very, very quickly. And if you knew about the same things that happened early on with Solana or with Ethereum, and you were into this stuff when it was $10 a token or whatever, you've made a lot of money. And so again, not a recommendation, but just people should be aware of what's happening.
Hey,
and this
Brian,
is happening.
We're doing our first token.
We are doing who is we?
Tasty live next weekend.
A token.
Our first digital.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Our first kind of tokenish. Our first digital token of our live show.
Awesome. Okay, I thought we were launching a tasty token.
No.
Okay,
no, but it's our first experiment into a blockchain based digital token where
That's cool.
people can watch it, and eventually, being able to put something like that into your wallet.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to be the first in the whole industry to do something like this, and we're going to test it out, see how it goes, and if it's successful, we'll do a lot more, and I think people will love it.
That's very cool.
And Ryan, back to the here and now. After Tom makes fun of me, I have to acknowledge that he just scalped $1 on his SPX 0-day, 30-day.
Only during Ryan's segment.
Only during Ryan's segment, right? It's only been 20 minutes or less.
1:15.
Hell yeah, making money here today. I like that.
I have to acknowledge it's
Yeah.
great.
The only reason I wanted to scalp it was because we're about to do the segment on it, and so I wanted to show that we can actually. I mean, we actually practice what we preach here.
Sure.
So that's the thing. But Ryan, that was great.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's our show. I do have to, on my team, Lawrence, he's over in the UK, mentioned to me to talk about this. We're doing a space on Twitter today. We have lined up all of the big derivatives protocols in DeFi.
Oh, nice.
So some of these guys we've talked to before, bringing everybody together to talk about what's happening. There's a ton that's evolving in the DeFi options trading space, the derivative space. On chain, and so we're going to talk about all that today. You can follow us on Twitter, on X at tastycrypto, and join the space that way, or you can listen to the recording afterwards, and also check out the wallet.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Good job, Eddie.
Thank
Ryan,
you, guys.
we're going to take a quick 90-second break and come back. We got a market measure next. This is Tasty Live.